Please welcome the former Superintendent of Public Instruction for the state of Arizona, Lisa Keegan.
Sorry about that. I had to hug Governor Romer. What a great man. It is a privilege to be here speaking to you and to be working with American Solutions. This is a critical issue. It is dire. I'm not going to go over the details again. You've heard them already. Our mistake would be to not understand how serious this problem is, or to be so overwhelmed by it that we think we shouldn't try. It's just too big. It is big, but I always figure, I woke up this morning, Creator's not done with me, we should just get to it. I want to talk about some things that are working and why they are working. Kellyanne said earlier, our job is not from on high to know the perfect system and put it into law, because it doesn't work. That would be fabulous if benevolent dictatorships, but they tend to go ugly on us for all the human reasons. Our job, whether we are lawmakers, school board members, parents, or teachers, is to understand what works and to create those laws and policies and practices that sustain an environment where that is created, keeps going, repeats itself, not to create the perfect school and hand it to everybody, but to create the perfect environment and the perfect expectation. We know what works in schools. What works in schools are schools with well-defined goals, as Governor Romer just said. High, challenging standards in a school that is led and populated by disciplined, mission-focused people who are themselves high achievers, and that school has been chosen by a parent who believes it is the right fit for their child. Right now, we have some of those models out there. They're phenomenally good schools. It's not the norm, not by far. So how do those schools happen, or why doesn't the entire system look like that? And here we need a little bit of history. History is always important. How did we set up these systems? What we did way back was we said, look, we're in a neighborhood. We'd like to have our children schooled. Let's get together. We'll pool our resources. We'll hire a teacher. The common school. That's going to be great for us. Well, that's a great intention, and it works well when you know your neighbors and you know your kids and you're able to hire fantastic educators. Over time, this has grown into a behemoth system where now it's not just one neighborhood and one school. We have huge school districts, dozens of schools, tens of thousands of kids, all run by one central office. And that central office sees fit to have its local governing board that used to be somebody that you knew. Now, not so much. Local governing boards are still people that we know and like, but probably don't know very well. Those governing boards put together what's called a collective bargaining agreement that is 100 pages plus, governs everything that has to do with their staff, pushes it down to every school that they have, and all schools are basically expected to meet all needs based on geography. So then, go one step further, we say, look, we're not going to be a big school district and you can go to any of these schools. We say, you live right here, this is your school. Your child is assigned to this school, whether that's a good school for your child or not. If it's a failing school, we feel bad about that, but that's your school. That's what we do. How in the world do we expect excellence to come out of a system that is so dispiriting and so negligent of human innovation? And the ability of teachers to say, look, I'm a fabulous math teacher. I can put together a great program. It's not what we do. It's not what we do. So how do we break through this and get to solutions? One of the most important things is human capital, people. This is a tough fact and not one we like to say out loud very often. Right now in the United States, we recruit into our colleges of education from amongst the lowest SAT, ACT scores in the country. These are collectively the lowest achieving students in college in America. Now, that's not true across the board, and it certainly isn't meant to say, look, teachers aren't smart people, but it is not a fact that we can ignore. What we know about excellent teaching is that the best correlation we have is between high-achieving teachers and high-achieving students. You have a high-achieving individual, and they're a teacher, their students are probably going to do very well. They probably know their subject matter well. They probably are very driven. They're probably very competitive. They probably think it's okay to get up early and stay late. That's the kind of person we need in a classroom. That is not what we're recruiting right now. So how do you break through, and what happens when these schools are great? I'm going to give you a visual. Think about a backpack on the back of a child, and you take the money that we contribute as the public to that child and you zip it into the bag. Child goes to a school that works for him, and whoever is lucky enough to get that child unzips the backpack gets to take the money out. They get that money because that school is right for that child, and if for some reason that turns out to be a horrible school, kid gets to take the backpack, go to a different school. That system is actually in play right now in the United States in a number of different ways. I'm going to tell you about them. You all have public charter schools in this state. They exist right now in 43 states. Public charter schools in Arizona right now, the top 6 out of 10 public high schools, public charter schools. They are coming on. This model of money following kids into schools that work for them is important because it doesn't require us to say, look, this is what a perfect school looks like. It simply says we define what excellence looks like in terms of our standards. We require schools to report out, and we let people choose that school if that's the right school for their child. That's an entirely different model, and it's hugely exciting. I gave you some homework. I want you to go home and write a few things down if you can remember. Go look up uncommon schools. These are inner city schools that are mind-blowing. Go look up Green Dot schools, Aspire public schools, KIPP. There are dozens and dozens of incredible school models. In Arizona right now, Newsweek calls our Basis public charter school the best school in America. It's a public charter high school. All their coursework is AP coursework. They take anybody who comes. You just have to want to do the work. Phenomenal model. There are also models, backpack models, emerging in school districts. Look at New York. Look at D.C. Look in New Orleans. In New Orleans, they actually outlawed their collective bargaining agreements because they had such a crisis. They decimated their school system. And the new school superintendent, who is a wonderful leader, Paul Vallis, has said, look, let's get charter schools in here. Our job is to educate kids. We're not competing with public charter schools. We're competing with ourselves. Get them in here. Joel Klein in New York, same thing. Get me uncommon schools. Bring me Victory public charter schools. Bring me KIPP schools. If you got a school that works, bring it to New York. You're in business. That's a different model. That is not a top-down model. That's a model that says, look, we know what we want, and we're going to let these solutions come to us. The teachers in these schools are absolutely phenomenal people. Lots of them not certified in the traditional way. Lots of them did not come through traditional colleges of education. And I'll tell you, the difference between teachers who come through something like Teach for America, Wendy Kopp's organization, that takes the top-tier graduates from the nation's most elite universities. Right now, they have 10 applicants for every slot they can take. We got to get those guys to expand. They're absolutely phenomenal. Those teachers do a better job with their students than experienced teachers in the traditional system. And they are also inventing these new schools. They are driven. They are passionate. They are mission-focused. Fabulous organization. Troops to teachers, military people going into schools. Those teachers are right now our #1 source for minority male teachers who are excellent in the country. Used to be in the military, understand discipline, understand focus. They're coming into the classroom. Now your states have to allow them in, and a lot of the old guard doesn't want them in, so you have to fight that political battle. Get them in there. Go on the website. Take a look at what they're doing. Talk to your lawmakers. Do we have Teach for America? Do we have Troops to Teachers? Are we allowing the American Board, another one, to come in and certify teachers? They take career changers who are high-performing people. They put them through very rigorous exams about how to teach and content, and then they certify them. These are new organizations bringing new blood and new vision into the public school system. It is happening. States are also allowing tuition tax credits, some direct voucher programs into private school settings. Again, the vision is the public money following kids into schools that work for them. Those schools report out their results, and then parents can choose among them. It's a different model. I told you I was going to give you some homework, and I do think you should go take a look. Go spend a day on the website looking at public charter schools, what's happening in America with that model, what's happening with some of these mind-blowing schools. If you are a legislator, you ought to be looking at your formulas. You ought to be looking at what it is about the law that prevents money from following kids into schools that work for them. This system is broken. Right now, 25 out of 50 states are in their own Supreme Courts suing because their school funding formulas are so inequitable. They are ugly and poisonous systems. We don't have time to get into it here, but there's no need to preserve that system. Why not move to the next one? Why not move to money following kids so kids can be in schools that innovative educators are creating? We've got schools out there that are 1 day in the schoolroom and 5 or 4 days at home online. Some of them are 5 days, so they go 6 days. All of these successful schools do what Governor Romer was talking about, and they do it without a law that requires it. They spend more time, they have higher standards, their teachers are better, they're totally motivated to do the right thing, and not because somebody wrote it in a law, because they are exceptionally focused people who, prior to the new programs, quite frankly, weren't interested in going into teaching. We dispirit more young people in the teaching profession than I can possibly tell you, because it is so patronizing. But you allow them to come to the fore, create their own schools, or join with a mission-focused organization that really is asking them to excel, we can get them to do that. If you're a local school board member, stop believing it is your job to create every solution. Go spend a day in New York, in Washington, in New Orleans, in Chicago, in Philadelphia, looking at some of what they're trying to do. It's not all successful yet, but send your superintendent out there and say, bring me the best examples of what is working in the United States. We are going to do what works. We are not just going to follow this 100-page collective bargaining agreement anymore. We are going to do what works for kids. Teach those superintendents what they need to know about how to be exceptional. Then we'll all write about them and celebrate them. They'll be very happy. If you are a teacher or you are thinking about being a teacher, don't allow yourself to be patronized in these systems. If you are thinking of being a teacher or your child is thinking of being a teacher, please consider staying in history as a major, math as a major, science as a major. Then go through Teach for America or another alternate route. You cannot get what you need in the traditional systems by and large. I'll go ahead and make it a sweeping system. I think you're better outside, or a sweeping statement. You're better outside. Stay focused on your content. And if you're a parent, get online, find out how your school is doing. Greatschools.com, School Matters, your state school site, educationtrust.org. We now know how every school in America is performing because of the data requirements that are in place. Thank God. Now you choose. Your job to get informed. I have seen this work. I'm seeing it happen all over the country. I know many of you are as well. I believe in us. I believe it is critical. I believe we could fail to do it. And that scares me to death because I have grandchildren too. This is our job. We know how to do this. And it's a privilege to talk to you about it, and I encourage you in your own work. Thank you.